Hi again, everyone, and welcome to Badger Breakdown. I'm Mike Lucas for UWBadgers.com. I'm joined by Matt LePay, the voice of the Badgers. In the NFL, that fourth preseason game is pretty meaningless. In college football, that fourth non-conference game can be a precursor of things to come in league play, and I think it's no exception with Wisconsin.
Maybe especially with Wisconsin, although you could probably say it about any number of teams, even in the Big Ten, or maybe especially in the Big Ten. Clearly, this is a team, I keep thinking of the two words that Brett Bielema used last week at a news conference, baby steps. And maybe we saw some of that with the offense last week, still nowhere near where it wants to be, but Monte was able to get a big crease on the long touchdown run, heavy workload, and 3 games, 3 4-quarter games, so at least they're used to it now, figuring there's probably going to be more where that came from as they move into league play soon.
I think if you just looked at that box score from the Utah State game and looked at the offensive statistics, you wouldn't have felt the same way about the offense making strides. But if you watch the game, there were tailbacks at the second level numerous times, and we hadn't seen that through the first 2 games.
Yeah, and that's part of that whole thing with what Brett's talking about with the baby steps. Clearly the consistency is lacking. You'd see an 8-yard gain on first down, and second and third they couldn't pick up those next 2
short
yards.
Yardage
it's tough.
misery.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's not just the offensive line. You need everybody else blocking as well, tight ends, fullbacks, wide receivers, because you know with those tailbacks, if you could give them some space, and I say tailbacks plural, 3 of them, that they can run and they can get some things done if there's a crease to run through.
Now look, he's not going to be a panacea, he's not going to be the savior, but getting Jared Abbrederis back this week is going to really help the offense.
Well, it really does. I mean, think about some of the guys who were lining up, and they could be very good here down the road, but they're very young right now when you look at a Kenzel Doe, Jordan Frederick, Reggie Love getting some repetitions. It's just a very early stage of all of their careers right now, and you get the savvy veteran and very productive one in Jared Abbrederis back. That has to be a big boost. I certainly can't discount Jeff Duckworth as well, but Abbrederis is the big play guy, the experienced big play guy. Got to think having him back is a real boost to this offense.
And in the spring we talked a lot about Joel Stave, about his arm strength and the things he did well. Leaving the stadium on Saturday, a number of people came up to me and shrugged, saying, well, you were talking so highly about Stave, we didn't see it. There were reasons for that.
Yeah, 1st and 15, 1st and 20, backed up at their own 10, their own 5.
Buttoned up the offense.
Absolutely. It really, it's like playing with a hand tied behind your back maybe in the game. But I think what they like about Stave, his arm strength, and I think his level-headed nature. They talk about him being a pretty flat-line guy, and I know Matt Canada has really been unsolicited and going back to fall camp and even before at how he's very meticulous. You hear that line with quarterbacks, which is a good thing, and it's not to say the other ones aren't. They all are, but they're, I think, impressed with the maturity that a guy like Stave brings. Tough spot, make your college debut on a night where you're behind, a night at home, crowd's getting restless, but he came in and he managed the game. A lot of quarterbacks don't like that, but those 2 words, be a game manager, but that's where they are right now, and I thought Joel did a pretty good job of that.
And the bottom line with an offense that's scuffling and has been very, very inconsistent, and there hasn't been a strong semblance of a running game, is that you can't turn it over. You cannot put yourself in a hole because you're not sure how many points you're going to wind up scoring. Those turnovers have hurt, especially at the quarterback position. Now, conversely, the Badgers have to find a way, and this sounds like a broken record, they have to find a way to get the ball back.
No question about it. Now, they got a spark with Kenzel Doe on the punt return, but it's a loose comparison here, but with baseball, you get a broken bat single, maybe that gets you out of the slump. Maybe here defensively, if you can get a turnover, get the offense in a short field, not only does it help the defense's confidence knowing that it can turn people over, but the offense maybe doesn't have far to go to get into the end zone. We've seen it before with this team last year, for instance. When you get that first turnover, it starts to snowball. Maybe that can happen with this year's group as well.
We both got our first exposure to UTEP in the season opener against Oklahoma. Man, it's a 7-7 game at halftime, 10-7 in the fourth quarter. They did a lot of things right.
They did, and I think you look at the first 2 games that UTEP played, home against Oklahoma, then on the road at Ole Miss. 2 words come to mind: missed opportunities. UTEP had a lot of opportunities. Defense was doing some pretty good things. Offense has had some trouble in the red zone. Field goal kickers, a combined 1 for 5 to start the season. They've missed some chances. Both of those scores were deceiving. You're right. I think UTEP another one of those teams which sounded like a broken record that you may not know a lot about, but might be a little better than you think.
A lot of people will remember the name Mike Price. He was a National Coach of the Year while he was at Washington State, took a couple of teams to the Rose Bowl, mentored Drew Bledsoe and Ryan Leaf, and got in a bit of a problem before he was able to sign his contract at Alabama. This is his 9th season now at UTEP, and he's a little bit on the hot seat. He's got to perform because he's at the end of his contract.
He is. I don't know about you, but I did a double take too earlier in the week, just looking up, just doing the research on UTEP, and 9 years. You know, it's been 9 years since he's been there. Obviously, a tough place probably. He got off to a good start there. They have scuffled the last couple of years, but name to keep in mind on that offense, even though they did get back on track last week, but a guy who put up 177 yards against Oklahoma, suffered a groin injury in the second half of that game and didn't play at all against Ole Miss, barely played the following week. Nathan Jeffrey, 177 yards in the game against Oklahoma, 71 on one play, but Mike, even if you take that away, he's averaging 5 yards a carry. So a name to watch, a name to look out for, Nathan Jeffrey, pretty good running back for UTEP.
And they get after it on special teams. They'll pressure the punter. They blocked that kick in the Oklahoma game that set up their touchdown.
They did, yeah, scored a scoop and score on a block punt, also blocked a field goal in that game. So some weapons to be sure, and defensively they have some size. Bart Miller, the offensive line coach, knows firsthand what it's like to go up against UTEP. He played against him. He was a GA at New Mexico State, coached against him. So Coach Miller pretty familiar with how difficult UTEP can be.
Badgers need some momentum to take into Lincoln in the Big Ten opener against Nebraska. This is where they have to start.
No doubt, and every team in the Big Ten, Mike, has noticeable flaws, and Nebraska is another one. Defensively, you think of the black shirts. They're not there yet, but you go into Lincoln, night game, Big Ten opener, anybody who knows anything about the reputation of the noise level for a home game in Nebraska, it'd be nice to see the Badgers go down to Lincoln, start the Big Ten season, get some momentum going.
For Matt LePay, I'm Mike Lucas. You've been watching Badger Breakdown on UWBadgers.com.